Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. And we're taking a look here today at VeThor token, which is a fan favorite. I get a lot of requests to cover this one, so I do appreciate my community members for asking that I cover this. More importantly, thank you to my patrons for recommending that I cover this here, because most of what I do here in these analysis is for you to ensure, because you are paying good money for my service, and I want to make sure that I make you happy and obviously help you in any way possible. So moving forward, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate your patronage. Also, note I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. So if you're new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor, but I have 15 years of trading experience, and my goal is to help you become a better trader by learning hopefully as much as you can from me and others as well. In other words, learn as much as you can from as many people as possible. It's important to absorb and sponge as much as you can, of course, in this industry, because not everyone has their own perfect method, right? I mean, I've perfected it over the years. Don't get me wrong, I have about an 80% overall success rate. I do share my trades with my patrons as well, so link in the description below for that. Check that out in your own time, of course. But I just like to make sure that we help you trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. That's the whole purpose for me here, is to ensure that we have better trading. The whole hype movement nowadays and all this pump and dump stuff, I don't really care for that much. I'm more of a straightforward, patient trader. So that's the kind of style that you like. Perhaps you learn a thing or two here today, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me here today. So without further ado, why don't we just go ahead and get to the charts. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look here at VeThor token. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline in the market so we know exactly what's going on, because any good trader will understand all the angles before they jump into making an investment. Again, this is investing, not gambling, right? So we want to look at all the angles, of course. Now, Bitcoin is the first one we're going to take a look at. Oh, and to preface, I apologize. If you're new to the channel, I always use TradingView.com desktop application. I recommend the paid version so you can have more than 2 indicators present at any given time. Link in the description below if you're interested in considering a full month for free to see if you like that. Check it out. It's definitely well worth it if you follow along and kind of have any kind of inclination for wanting to do what I do here. It helps, trust me. All right, so looking at the 4-hour chart here for Bitcoin, first and foremost, to note we have some major support and resistance levels. So previous support of about 44,000. Current support at 45,800, and then 46,800 as well. So we got like the 45.8, 46.8, this little channel here that the price keeps testing. In other words, when it comes down, it's testing 46,800 multiple times. It tested that about, wow, that was quite a lot actually. We're looking at what, 24, 28 hours almost in a row, and then it bounced up. And look, ever since then though, we've had this descending triangle pattern forming. Okay, now I mark that because it's important to understand that we're making consistently lower highs and in some cases lower lows, depending on how you look at it. It's not quite, but mostly lower highs. And that is a consideration for concern. We want to be careful and cautious, and until that can break above and actually start making higher highs, we're going to be on this downward pattern essentially that will likely break to the downside. So my speculation here is that we're going to start seeing some short positions open up once the price breaks below, and then our next major support would be 45,800. Good news is we have a support level on the 200, likely at right around 45,300. That'll come up and probably, by the time this occurs, intersect with the price action at 45,800. So I think we'll have 2 strong support levels if the price does break below, but just note that there is a consideration of the fact that the price could still likely progress downwards here and keep making lower highs, and that is a cause for concern, of course, for Bitcoin. So just keep that in mind, because that is something to be very aware of. But good news is on the 1-day chart, just so you know, we have been closing above 46,800 consistently. Therefore, we're in pretty good shape with that still being a strong support level. So there is that, right? Now moving on to Ethereum. Ethereum is doing very well. It's back kind of on track to what it was at before when Bitcoin goes sideways, a state of indecision. Most people like you and I will flock over to Ethereum and start investing because it's starting to pump. So it's basically doing its own thing right now, for lack of better terms. When Bitcoin's going sideways and not quite sure what to do, it finally broke free of that, and now it's working itself upwards to test the next major resistance at about 45.5. I apologize, I misspoke. 3,550, 35.5 if you will, but $3,550 is essentially the resistance here for Ethereum. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that. But if Bitcoin does break, 46,800 to the downside, then we will likely see Ethereum kind of reverse. Even though Bitcoin and Ethereum are separate in a sense right now, where Ethereum's kind of taken off on its own, there's a strong likelihood that Bitcoin does break a major support level. Then a lot of altcoins will essentially do the same thing. They'll start retracing down further. Okay, so that's kind of just my speculation there. Keep that in mind here for Ethereum. Moving on to VTHO, let's go ahead and take a look at the one-day chart first and work our way down. And obviously I want to note just something, again, if you're new to the channel, I like to kind of highlight this. April 17th was a major sell-off from Bitcoin, right? So when VTHO was in its prime, so to speak, somewhere between 0.014 upwards of about 0.023, it was kind of at a range right there. You could see that Bitcoin did terrible on the 17th. I think we all know that that was like a 15% retracement, and obviously the price came all the way down to somewhere around the range of 0.014. So that was a tough time for VTHO, VeThor token. But the bottom line here is that Bitcoin was between 50 and 64,000 in this range here. Bitcoin right now is between 47 and 50,000 in this range here. So the likelihood of VTHO breaking out and coming back up to its average true range previously of like 0.017, 0.018 is very high, again, pending Bitcoin breaking 50,000, right? Because right here when VTHO was taken off, Bitcoin jumped above 50,000 for a few hours, right? Ever since then, it's retraced and kind of gone sideways. Bitcoin's gone sideways where VTHO's gone down. But the main reason why VTHO went down is because it had this major pump and it had to retrace about 50%. But what's great is the 50-day simple moving average is coming up on the downside here, but more importantly, the 200 is working as a support level. So the great news is, the bottom, so to speak, for VTHO right now is 0.010. So basically 1 cent is essentially the bottom. That's where the 200-day simple moving average is kind of hovering. That's a great sign. And also, too, keep in mind as well, the 50 on the RSI is bouncing, so that is essentially a support level. So, the channel between 50 and 70 RSI is essentially working itself as a support zone. We do have a divergence, of course, recently. We see that there. However, there is a potential for a convergence here soon. So be prepared for that. There's a likelihood that we'll see a takeoff here from VTHO. We'll look at the 4-hour chart, but if we have a convergence in the 4-hour chart, I would say it's a green light to go ahead and start investing because VTHO will likely continue to take off. Again, if Bitcoin goes sub 46,800, it's a different story. But there's a strong likelihood, I think, regardless of what happens with that, VTHO will take off. VTHO definitely has to have some type of momentum from Bitcoin. So keep that in mind too. It doesn't just take off without any reason. Bitcoin's always doing well when VeThor token takes off. But VeThor token can take off when Bitcoin does average too. That's the thing. As long as Bitcoin's not doing poorly, then we're in pretty good shape, right? As you can see here, though, this is just a state of indecision from Bitcoin, and VeThor is essentially finally taking off. And that's just because it can only go so low for so long. It's bouncing off the 200 on the one-day chart, and that has a lot to do with it. So to touch on this here, 4-hour chart, first of all, we have the price above the 50-day simple moving average. Fantastic. Above the 200 as well. So we got two really good things going on here. RSI is under 70, still more room for growth. We have somewhat of a convergence. It wasn't super strong, but we definitely have a convergence in the MACD. That was yesterday at approximately 1 a.m. Okay, so yesterday at 1 a.m. So we'll just mark that really quick to kind of see if there's a correlation on the 1-hour chart for the Ishimoku cloud. But great news is we have a convergence on VeThor right now. So I would venture to guess that it's a good time to go long. So I would recommend considering a long position for VeThor token right now. Moving on to the 1-hour chart, let's go ahead and take a look here. First of all, we turn off the SMA and we take a look at the Ishimoku cloud and see. Okay, so we're a little off here in that sense, but still very much on the right track. In other words, the 4-hour chart for the MACD convergence at 1 a.m. basically told us, hey, we got a convergence for the price action right now where the 12 is intersecting with the 26 in upward fashion. That being said, that was a long signal to basically go long for us as a swing trader, right? Furthermore, it took a few hours. Obviously, it looks about 12, maybe 12 to 16 hours later, the price broke above the cloud. Okay, so this is a good sign here because on the 1-hour chart, when the price breaks above the cloud, it's considered a buy signal to go long, and when it's below, it's considered a sell signal. So right now, VeThor is essentially in a pretty good position here to continue progressing upwards. Again, I can't stress this enough. If Bitcoin goes down below 46,800 and breaks that major support level, and that becomes a resistance, we're going to be in, I wouldn't say in trouble, but VeThor will likely come back down to 1 cent. So just keep that in mind. All of this is null and void if that happens, just based on how reactive VeThor token is to Bitcoin. Okay. So please exercise caution there, but let's go ahead and take a look at the TD sequential as well and see. So we are kind of in overtime, but for lack of better terms, we're probably going to get a reset soon because the price is going to go sideways and or retrace for a little bit, because we can see we counted all the way up to a 9. And then now we're essentially in overtime. So another 2 more candlesticks, we'll see that reset, essentially cut that down to a 1, and we'll probably see some sideways action. So at this point, what this basically means is that we shouldn't expect to see much more of a bullish trend from VeThor token in the near future, based on the fact that we've had basically 9 hours of bullish momentum, and it's time for the price to calm down. Again, any good bull run, if you're familiar with my channel, has to have a staircase pattern, right? So let's go ahead and zoom out here. You'll see what I'm saying. This is a staircase pattern that we're looking for, right? It cannot just do one of these. It cannot go straight up without having to come straight back down. But a healthy bull run will continue this pattern here and always continue to go upside, right? It just has to have periods of consolidation that allow the price to calm down, the bears to try to get their little jabs in, and then of course the bulls to take control, and then they sell their positions and this short squeeze continues. See? So a lot of times it just happens these periods of consolidation, and multiple squeezes that continue to push the price up. So this is just something to look for, but again, 1 hour chart is looking favorable here in a sense. Again, all good things here. The only thing I'm concerned about is Bitcoin not quite breaking that wedge pattern, right? Those lower highs are concerning to me. Until we break that pattern, I would be careful to invest in VeThor token. Again, if you're a gambling person, sure, the odds are in your favor that VeThor is going to take off and continue back to the upside. There's a strong chance of that. But I'm not the gambling type, and I would recommend waiting until the support level of 46,800 is tested again from Bitcoin and see how the price responds. Unless we can start making higher highs and higher lows, that support level is very important right now to the success of a lot of altcoins. All right, so looking at the 15-minute chart, not much to really disseminate here, just based on the simple fact that it's consolidating right now, but we can take a quick look and see price is below EMA but above VWAP. So all in all, still very good shape. So this is what I was referring to here. When you get that standard deviation that's too high, that's almost about 10%, the price will have to come back down, because that deviation from the volume weighted average price has to retrace essentially at any given time, eventually, right? We have that happen here, of course. Price is going sideways, but generally speaking, what I'm trying to get at here is that the price is above support right now. So we're in good shape. All in all, VeThor has a lot of good things going for it right now. If we lose the support of the VWAP, of course, and the price starts breaking to the downside, be a different story. But for right now, all good things for VeThor. I think that what we're going to see happen, just say Bitcoin continues to go sideways. It can't quite make up its mind, it just keeps wavering between 46,800 and 49,300. If that continues, VeThor will continue to make these leg ups, but also followed by short periods of consolidation. So we should see some more sideways action from VeThor. I don't think we're going to expect to see any more pumps unless Bitcoin goes on a tear to 48, 49,000. But my speculation is that Bitcoin will break 46,800 to the downside. And if that were to happen, then VeThor will retrace back down to possibly 1 cent. And at that point, it'd be a good consideration to buy, because again, 1 cent is a really strong support level. So why don't we mark that really quick just so you guys have it for future reference. Of course, if the screen locks, it's kind of hard to do that, right? Come on. Yeah, so I would say, just generally speaking, be very careful in this sense here, because again, Bitcoin is the major catalyst right now. But I can tell you that we're still in pretty good shape. All good things I see here so far, minus of course what's going on with. So there we go. So we'll mark that there. Okay. So looking at the 15 here, obviously, to go back to it, if you're going to consider taking entry right now, I would say set a stop loss, somewhere in the range of 0.015, 0.017 to ensure the price comes down. You get stopped out, yes, but you take a small loss, right? Because I do think that, again, if Bitcoin does sell off past 46,800, we will eventually see VeThor to come down to test its next major support level at about 1 cent. Okay. Now, if Bitcoin continues to go sideways, we'll probably see some consolidation and see a break to the upside again. There's a strong likelihood of that. But just know that this support level here is a major catalyst, essentially, if Bitcoin sells off. So we're going to likely see the price kind of come down and test that when that happens. One other thing too is see if we can find any other resistance levels just to make sure. I mean, this is an obvious one here, so just note as well that we do have a major resistance at about 0.015. So from 0.01 to 0.015 are essentially the major channel that we're working in right now. Okay. Yes, there's a lot of small little support and resistance levels. In fact, you can kind of see one right here as well. Why don't we do this here? Let's go ahead and mark Fibonacci real quick, just to make sure we know what's going on here. So we'll just go ahead and mark a line right here. That's right where the price action is at. Right, and what that is, that's basically right around the price right now. So 0.012 is a major support and resistance level. So long story short here, we've got this little channel, right, of 0.01 to 0.015. Right where the price action is at right now is a potential support and resistance level. We'll see what happens with that soon, but I don't want to focus on that for the moment. I would say big picture here, wait to see what happens with Bitcoin. That's the bottom line. If Bitcoin comes down to 46.8 and bounces, and we stay above, and we break that, and we start making higher highs and higher lows, then yes, I would say invest in this here. But what I'm planning to do is wait for VeThor to come down closer to 1 cent again, and maybe just buy the dip. Again, that'll happen if Bitcoin breaks the support level. If there's no break there and Bitcoin stays sideways, then I think VeThor is going to continue to leg up and keep making its moves. Okay, so I know that's not very decisive, and that's not a fantastic. Like, you're not walking away with a set, a set prediction here. But I can tell you though that it's important to honor Bitcoin right now based on how VeThor is responding to it. So I would just say always pay attention to Bitcoin right now. Set some alerts. If Bitcoin breaks that support level, then consider waiting for VeThor to come down. If Bitcoin continues to stay sideways, we start making higher highs and higher lows, then I would maybe add to your position for VeThor, because it'll likely come up and test the resistance of 0.015. All right, so there you have it. Hopefully you found this beneficial. If you do, please like and subscribe. If you haven't joined my Patron account already, I share all my trades with my community members. Link in the description below for that. We're coming up on 50 members here soon, which is fantastic. So thank you so much to all of you for my support. Appreciate it. Now moving forward, hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.